Here we are. Now we have come to an agreement. I'm very happy to welcome all of you who are connected. We begin today the first of some meetings, which has the theme of women, education and future, a theme which will be developed time by time, visited better in the 4 continents where the Sisters of Charity work and where the Foundation Thouret supports some projects. In fact, lately, the Thouret Foundation is focusing on all those projects which address education of the little one, the children, but also education of young women. Why? Because in many parts of the world, due to the culture, the faith, or the traditions, women are often discriminated. We believe that only through education, which is a powerful means, condition of women can be promoted and they might express all their skills and gifts to make the world a better place, a more human, more fraternal, and more able to live in solidarity, a place in which we live in solidarity. I like the image proposed by Michela Murgia, an Italian author, who always promoted women who has died lately, and she spoke of voiceless thought. It means that women have a great thoughts and very rich thoughts, and women are able to re-elaborate all that happens around them, but often also because of the context in which they live, these thoughts cannot be expressed. And this for us is unfair. That's why we thought to begin this, to start in the next 2 years, a campaign which is Girl, enlighten your future, your path. Education is your path. It means that all our projects, the projects we will be supporting, will address the education of children, girls and young women in the countries where we are. So we want to say a big thank you to all those who are who take part in this meeting. And we thank also Lia Beltrami and Alessandra de Poli, who have given us their time to be with us. I thank also Sister Marta, Daniela, and Solange, who are helping us for translation. Sister Therese, who has looked after all the technical organization. And then I let Anna lead the meeting because she will be the facilitator in this meeting, letting our guests take part in this meeting. But before letting Anna speak, we follow the prayer prepared by Sister Therese. Thank you, everybody. It's inspired by the message of Pope Francis for the World Day, for the Mission World Day. Faith, Lord Jesus, you are always with us. You always take initiatives, the initiative to walk at our side. Keep burning the fire of mission. Above all, when your disciples are discouraged and lost. Lord Jesus, you who dwell in an invisible way in our hearts, remain with us, remain in our hearts, make them burn. so that we may communicate to all the unique experience of encountering you, the risen Lord. Lord Jesus, you make fill your disciples with joy and give them the desire for an outgoing church. Help us to announce the good news of your peace and salvation.
Fa che non possiamo tacere la tua buona notizia della pace e della salvezza.
To all of you from all over the world, it is nice to in this meeting, in this missionary month, and with this beautiful prayer, which speaks about burning hearts and walking feet. Today, we use the feet of the Sisters of Charity, walking with them in their mission all over the world, and we will go across the fourth continent, where the foundation, the Thouret Foundation is. As Sister Luisa said, we'll speak of women and education, and we have today as a guest two women who also work in education, because are work in communication, and we have here Alessandra de Poli, a journalist of Asian News, and then we will also listen to her. And also Lia Beltrami, who is a director of film and producer of films. And I anticipate also that if you have some questions you want to ask, you can write them in the chat, and then we will ask them to answer. So we start with Alessandra. So we have said that you are a journalist working with Asian News and World Mission, which is a magazine of the Pontifical Institute for Missions Abroad. And you follow especially the South Asia and Southeast Asia. But you have also an experience as a missionary, and the first time you went to the Catholic University, and you also worked with the Sisters of Charity because they work with the Catholic University, and you are also going for an exhibition as a journalist. So we start from art. How was born in you the wish of going for this missionary experience, and what brought you to look to working as a journalist and to work about this theme? Thank you. Stop. As Anna said, before becoming a journalist, I was just a missionary because during the university I participated in a program organized by the university together with the Pontifical Institute for Mission. I didn't know what the Pontifical Institute for Mission was, but the word missionaries had come to make the program known, and I subscribed it, and I went to Mexico with the Scalabrinian sisters, and we were two girls. We stopped for a while in Mexico City, and then we went to Querétaro, which was a big city, and there we did some voluntary work among the migrants for a month. And then when we came back to Italy, I received the magazine World and Mission. I looked at it, and I was near to the end of my studies, and for the thesis I needed to do a stage. So I asked to go to the magazine and went there to see if I could collaborate with them. And then I made a stage, training stage, and then I went for a trip, and then I did other works also. And then in 2021, the editor of Asia News, went to Milan, and that is a picture when I was in Mexico some years ago now. And actually, I never worked on Asia. I had worked on migration and religions, but not about Asia, so I had to study a lot. And this was my journey, and that's how I am here. And the next journey I'm going to start in November. I will go to India. I'm going to India if everything goes well. For the moment, this is the planning, and I'm going to visit the missions of the Pontifical Mission Institute. Perhaps when you come back, you might tell us about your experience. So, beside this experience as a journalist,
Poi magari al tuo ritorno ci racconterai, no, la tua esperienza.
about your experience and also about the statistics we have. What can you tell us about the condition of the women in Asia, and what are the opportunities this continent offers them? To speak about Asia, it's difficult because it is the largest continent in the world, and more than half of the population of the world. So in Asia, we find many different situations. We could speak about women in Middle East, and the situation of the women, Christian women or Muslim women. We could speak for hours about India, where women are still victims of attacks, acid attacks. But at the same time, there are states in Northeast where there is a matriarchal system. We could say that there are society very much advanced, like the South Korea or Japanese, but also there is a discrimination of women. So much so that in some cases we can say that there are anti-feminist groups. So Asia offers plenty of inputs. I have chosen some of these. I will present you some data come from the United Nations, but keeping in mind that data will describe situations, but often personal history of people do not follow the data which we have, as you as a missionary know very well. In Asia, there are plenty of contrasts and paradoxes also. For example, last year there was a report according to which Asian women are the richest in the world, because in Asia is the continent which is growing more than any other continent. So if beforehand there were only 13 very rich women, in 2022 there were 92 very rich women. But in spite of this, and we can say also that there is a growth of the richness handled by women. It is foreseen that there will be a big growth in the next years. But in spite of this, 75% of women live in a very difficult situation, and they work in what is called the informal area of economy. It means areas in which they do not have contracts, they do not have, they are not protected by social laws, and Asian women, in comparison to the women in other world, are those who spend most time in the care for their house and family, with average of 7 hours spent to look after their family and the houses, and doing work which is not paid, and
quota media
this
del 7,7 ore
prevents women
lavorative
from being counted in the formal area of work.
all'interno della fascia
Women
d'età
are still
e
victims of
si
big
tratta
discriminations,
di lavoro
even in the Asian societies, which we consider as the most advanced. For example, in Japan, women are the 78% of the people, of the students going to university and coming to have a title in education, but only 16% are taking part in courses of mathematics, physics, sciences, engineering. From a work job point of view, 44% of women work, but only the 17% of them, of researchers, are women. So also in Asia, it is very difficult for women to have roles which are the highest roles from a professional point of view. In the Philippines, there was a study which showed that when they reach the age of 10 years old, the girls leave topics like mathematics and sciences, which are considered for male, not for females. And the majority of women, there is a greater number of women who lost their job, and half of the women living in Asia have lamented the difficulty of having flexible hours to work and take care of their family, so they were penalized. And after the women of Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, the women in greatest difficulty are in Asia, Central Asia and South Asia. And another thing which is not very well known is the influence that the climate change has in South Asia and Southeast Asia. We think of floods and earthquakes and women, because they are more vulnerable, they feel more the impact of these climate changes. For example, in Iraq, where there is very little water, and the 30% of population in rural areas that doesn't have drinkable water, women have to spend at least 3 hours every day to collect the water. It's the same situation we have in India, where women spend more than 50 minutes every day to collect water, while men um, and they spend only 4 minutes a day to collect drinkable water. So there is a big difference, not to speak about violence against women, which is a very spreaded phenomenon, which everywhere, all over the world, but especially in Asia. If globally we can say that one woman out of three was was victim of abuse or violence, this is much more in Asia. And also every hour, at least five women are killed by a male who belongs to the family or is an intimate partner. And all these, the majority of these um, crimes take place in South Asia. So what is the importance of education for women and children in general in this context? It has been studied that an educated girl, for each year of education, can have an increase in her income of 20%. And it's not just an economical gain for the woman who works and studies, but some researches show how education of women brings a greater freedom, a less a decrease of the rate of mortality among children, and the more the women have education, the less violence against them takes place. So if we in South Asia, um, like especially in Pakistan, where young Christian girls are kidnapped and obliged to convert to Islam and to marry those who kidnapped them. In Pakistan, it has been shown that if a school is 50, half a kilometer farther away from the houses, from the village, the girls attending the school decreases automatically 20%. It means that to spread schools in rural areas close to the villages may increase the number of girls who attend school. The same in Afghanistan, but also in Indonesia. This was a fact. It is a fact that building schools in rural areas can increase the number of children, especially girls, attending school. So it is important, very important, to have an educational center in the areas which are farther away from the cities. And we know that in the last 20, 30 years, the growth of cities has been enormous, and there are cities in Asia which have the size of small states in Europe. But then there are areas where girls are abandoned to themselves. Together with you, we have thought to stop on three keywords which can take us to see some aspects, and these are much.
Insieme a te, appunto, abbiamo scelto di
And about these three words, we are going to have chosen an image. So
potranno
can
poi accedere
we
con
speak about
piacere
the first image?
sono appunto le parole che abbiamo scelto: mediazioni, maternità surrogata e aborto selettivo. E per ognuna di esse abbiamo scelto
I ask Sister Teresa to share the image, please.
di partire dalla prima immagine relativa alla migrazione.
The first word is migration. So the image shows
Chiederei a Suor Teresa se può condividere.
the migration. Not this graphic, but the image about
La parola migrazione,
no,
la parola migrazione, quindi l'immagine
that's it.
mostra
This
quasi
image, which we can even
non questa,
stick
non questa
together
immagine
to
relativa
the
all'immigrazione.
traffic, human traffic.
La precedente?
This is a picture
Questa immagine che
of migrants from Philippines
anche alla parola tratta.
who work in Saudi
A
Arabia,
partire da questo, cosa ti suscita raccontarci questa problematica?
where they wear these black dresses, long dresses. And often when we speak about migration, we do not think that among migrants there are many women. In Asia, women migrate a lot. The biggest community of migrants and the greatest diasporas coming from Asia are those coming from China, India, and Philippines, and especially migration in Asia remains within Asia. It means that workers from Southeast Asia go to the countries of Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Emirates. While men work especially in building sites without any protection, women work as domestics in the houses of rich families. I gave you a data which goes back to 2017. The number of people from Southeast Asia is 124 milliard of dollars as income given by these workers outside their country, which goes back to their own country to support the families. In 2020, the total of the income made by Philippines workers was many thousands of dollars and $2 billion to the Philippines, and this makes the 9% of the internal product of the Philippines. To say that it is very important, the contribution of the foreign of the Philippines working abroad, and also in India. There were 8.9 million citizens working in Saudi Arabia and so on. And also in Pakistan, mostly the migrants go to the Emirates or the Saudi Arabia or these countries anyway. As you know, this system through which these people migrate is called kafala, which means sponsor. It means that they look for a sponsor in the country where they have to go. They have a contract which has a limited time. The migrants can easily access to visa and leave their family, and with the hope of coming back with a good sum of money. But often this is not happening because the owner take away the passport to the workers, so they cannot denounce the abuses they are victims of which they are victims. They cannot change work. They cannot leave the country either and go back to their own country. Only the owner can grant permission to the workers to go to change their job. And as the demand of workers is for women without any qualification, often women who actually leave do not have enough education and information, so are more vulnerable and can be abused or be victim of fraud by those who organize these trips and those who work as a mediator between the families and the worker and the owners. So it happens often that the agencies, the recruiting agencies, they replace the contracts and they ask the workers to pay for the expenses they have supported, so that for many months they work without any salary. Now the laws have changed a bit, but in the past this was cause of modern slavery and various abuses. Philippines for 1 year stopped to grant visas to go to these countries because in 2015 a woman from Philippines, which was mother of 3 children, disappeared, and although there were a lot of inquiries, she didn't come back and nobody's able to say anything. So the Arabia did not pay the 9,000 workers, had not paid 9,000 workers. And so, and many Philippines speak about abuses. So between 2020 and 2021, Philippines stopped visas for workers to Saudi Arabia. But after 1 year, this was revoked, and there was an agreement between the two countries in order to fight the human traffic and do work for the defense of the protection of the rights of people. But there isn't a monitoring system. It means that on paper everything is written clearly, but actually nobody knows if this is implemented or not. Also, recently I went to Jordan and I spoke to Caritas organizers, and they were visiting the prisons, and they told me that in Jordan, in the prisons of Jordan, there are many workers, women workers, who are recruited with this system. The families do not pay their salaries for various months, and until the visas expires, and then they are arrested because they do not have any paper. They are without means because they had not received a salary, and so they are taken to
in base a quando dovrebbe scadere anche il contratto, a un certo punto il visto scade, quindi le donne si trovano senza aver ricevuto lo stipendio per diversi mesi.
sorry.
Il visto scade.
And they stay in prison waiting to be sent back to their own country by the Jordan state, and nobody knows about it because even those responsible of Caritas told me that they were advised, they were warned not to spread news about this situation because migrations are a very sensitive topic for Jordan. In fact, they do not even acknowledge the status of refugees. And obviously, besides direct abuses, the workers are really segregated because there is no contact between the citizens of the countries where they go to work and the workers. And during the pandemic, the workers had lost their job. They were without any means to pay the ticket to go back to their homes. And so they just received help by charitable organizations. And although there are many laws, it is important to have education, because if these people receive a good education, and if this is true especially for women, and so that they could be educated and work within their own country, they would not need to go abroad. And certainly here there is an economical aim, and this should go together with the support for the economy of the countries where from where these people come, Philippines, India, Pakistan. It is true that for some migrants, life they are in a favorable position, but this is not a stable situation, because they have earned some money, they helped the families making the children study, but once they are back to their country, they are again in a situation of economical deprivation, or they are victims of domestic violence. Some are even looked with suspicion because they have gone abroad to work and they were able to earn money to make the children study. So in a long term, the situation is always a difficult situation for these people. Let us go to another keyword, which is surrogate maternity. And here also we have an image, and behind each image there is a story.
Passiamo invece a una
This,
tematica
this
che
picture
avevamo scelto.
portrays a woman from Cambodia with a child she bore, but whose father is unknown because the father was a donor, a sperm donor from another country, and the boy was supposed to go to a family, a Chinese family, to a Chinese father especially. There was an inquiry made by New York Times who told the story of many Cambodian women who found themselves in this situation. It means they were surrogate mothers, and then they were obliged, compelled to have these children and to care for these children whom they did not want to keep because they had been paid just to bear the pregnancy, give birth, but then in 2018 the Cambodian authorities prevented these women from giving away the children, arrested the families who mainly were Chinese families and who had asked for this service, and the women had to keep the children and care for them. So they had to bring them up, although without knowing the father, and sometimes they had already a husband or a companion or a partner, and they had other children, and they were already in a situation of poverty. So the New York Times told different stories, and for many women this was a problem because the child was an extra burden, because the surrogate mother, to be a surrogate mother is a practice which in Southeast Asia is used, and that women are recruited because among poor women who already have a job but whose salary is so low, and they should be rewarded with such a big amount of money to be surrogate mothers that they accept to do this also more than once. The question is very is not very nice, because there are laws which forbid this practice. In Thailand, for example, it was forbidden from 2015. Cambodia introduced the same in 2016, but the law is not enough to implement it and to change the situation of people. And also India had legalized surrogate mothering, but from in 2019 has introduced plenty of laws. Then in 2020, in 2022, and these laws leaves the possibility to not to take it into account, and women are abused also in this case, are victims, because those who support this practice reckon that this it helps those who cannot have children, but this meets the situation of poverty of others. So we can wonder or ask how much freedom there is in the choice of those who are so poor that they choose to give birth to a child for someone else. Especially in Laos, Thailand, and Myanmar. This is a region called the Golden Triangle, and there are plenty of trafficking and illegal trafficking of drugs, of organs, and human trafficking. And so it is very easy that in spite of the laws, we can buy and sell also newborn children. And just to let you understand with some data, Thailand women are paid up to $13,000 to bear a pregnancy for someone else. In Laos, couples, foreign couples who go to the clinics in Laos pay more than $50,000 to have their babies. And of these, the women, the Laotian women, receive only $8,000. $8,000 for a woman is 72 times the normal salary. Obviously, there are also risks from a health point of view to have so many pregnancies, or with the IVF, it is possible that there are premature children born. And the laws issued in 2015-2016 followed some scandals, especially in Thailand. There was the case of a couple of Australian couple who refused to take a child born from a surrogate mother because he was affected by Down syndrome. So all these countries try to refresh their image. But this problem remains very big, and the data about the money received by the women is not very well known. And also the question is that the children are victims of human trafficking. The third image regards the word selective abortion, and the image is that of a pushchair, an empty pushchair, which is a never born child, and these are especially baby girls, because often it is thought, we always thought that it is China which suffer from a big gap between the number of men and women, because up to 2016 there was the politic of the unique child, but the families prefer to have a boy instead of a girl, and so they use selected abortion. And but this is also something which has an impact in India, in Vietnam, in Bangladesh, although we do not hear talking about it. In India, some studies, some researches of 2020 show that in 2030 we may count more than 8 million baby girls born, because although there is a law which prevents the possibility of showing the sex of the baby before it is born. By tradition, boys are preferred to girls because in the past, children, any child was needed to work in the fields, but in India especially, girls are considered a burden because when they get married, they need a dowry. But there are many researches, and then I close here, that demonstrate how up to now in India, in rural areas, and also in families where women have studied a lot, families keep preferring the birth of a boy
Ancora oggi in India, anche nelle aree rurali,
because
anche nel caso di famiglie
because
che hanno studiato molto,
we have
la nascita di un maschio su una
there
femmina.
are some data we can show, and this show that even women in big cities prefer to have a boy instead of a girl, because the fertility in India has the fertility rate in India has decreased. Say if beforehand they had 4, 5, 6 children, now they have just 1 or 2, and there is still a greater number of boys than females. And also women do not look for further pregnancies if they already have a boy. But if they have 2 or 3 girls, then they might have another child hoping that it would be a boy. And this tells us how culture has an impact, an important impact in the choices and in the fact that women are discriminated. We cannot show the other data, but I would ask you to, from all this journey we have made with you, what is, according to you, the greatest challenge for those who take care of education? We have seen also, although quickly, and then I can answer the questions, that in spite of progress, in Asia there are some cultural problems, and this is the biggest challenge. To value the role of women in society, because if women are educated, they benefit not just their families but the whole society. And also we need to make understand that regardless women bring benefits, a woman has the same rights and have the same dignity as a man. And in Asia we have an economical growth, and it has seen a very big improvement in the last 30 years, but still there are these contradictions. So besides the economical improvement, it is important that the whole of society may grow and develop at all levels. I don't know if I was clear. Thank you very much, Alessandra. Afterwards, we might have the opportunity to ask some questions. Thank you for all the description you have given us, and also for your work. Now we continue with Lia Beltrami, who is a writer, an author, a speaker, and also producer, and she makes films, and she works for the protection of human rights, and she has won the Golden Lion in Venice. You cannot hear, it's very much.
Lei si occupa appunto di cinema, viaggi, diritti umani. Pensate che ha vinto il Leone d'Oro per la pace a Venezia nel 2017 e ha diretto di mostre, tra cui l'ultima esposta appunto in Piazza San Pietro, che era Women's Cry, ed era un'esposizione di 26
So she has been filming the situation of women in the farthest areas of the world, and we have something to show you. And there was a documentary about the women in tropical forests in Amazon, and also and she has also been a guest of the Sisters of Charity in Kalimantan, Indonesia. And there is a docu-film which tells us something about the women in the forest of Borneo. And we can see a clip of this, and Lia will tell us when we can be able to see the film, and to know also the mission of the Sisters of Charity. Welcome, Leah. Good afternoon. Good morning. Very nice to see women from all over the world together to carry out a journey, such an important journey. So I would begin from the video so we can enter your world of cinematography.
Donne da tutto il mondo che stanno insieme per portare avanti un cammino così importante.
Allora, inizierei proprio dal vecchio filmato, così entriamo subito nel tuo mondo, che è quello cinematografico.
This is Indonesia, where we have the Sisters of Charity, Kalimantan. It was a very short clip, but with these beautiful images which makes us wish to go there. So I start asking you what brought you to do this film and what makes it made it your job and your passion to tell about and to try to tell the hope and to try to enlighten the most invisible stories and the most hidden stories, which are very strong, was what led my work. I had studied in New York, in the academy, in the cinemas world, but I felt that reality was attracting me more. So I started going to Ethiopia. I went to Ethiopia 30 years ago. And then with my husband and my whole family, it was a journey of my whole family. And we went around the world to tell a history of hope. And in the most, the greatest number of cases, these stories of women touch the work of religious or sisters or people of faith in various corners of the world. This is part of the history. You have traveled a lot and you have met a lot of women. Could you tell us something about what struck you most meeting these women, and if there is a special story? I don't know if you made a documentary out of it. The last news we receive from Israel and Palestine is what touches me most now, because in the last 14 years, together with women leaders of different religions, we started a movement of women of faith for peace, and also this new war which has just started call us to be in the front line. The experience of this group, which has spread it all over the world as an inspiration, start from saying women are able to generate life in any way they do so, in any way they live. And if we want to go further in dialogue and on the path of peace, we have to form young women who can be leaders in their communities, so that they may pass on, communicate life and not death. And situations like those of these days make us feel we see we are in a crisis, but we know that we have to work more through faith and prayer, dialogue, trying to keep bridges open. And in this, women are extraordinary. In a special story in Asia, I have filmed many documentaries. As Alessandra said, the Golden Triangle, I followed the story of the children in Myanmar, but also in Iraq, in Iran, in Jordan, always about human trafficking. Asia is a continent where I go often, and is especially the story of Bharati, a young woman from Kolkata, about which I tell in the story, A Birth of Song, which comes from a life of abuses, which succeeded in getting out of it thanks to sisters of different congregations. And more than once she comes out of this dark corner and gets formation and realizes her own dream, and then she gets sick, and there is a documentary in which I tell about her life, and at the end of her of the docu-film I prepared, she died, and that made me fell into a deep crisis, because my work of telling history by filming, I could not see the meaning of it. But a sister told me, if you did not tell the story of Bharati, her life would have stopped there. But because you have filmed it, then many people can know this. And this documentary received 60 awards, international awards, and her story was known, her message was received. So our commitment to tell women's stories help to keep alive this flame of hope. The crown you have on your head is not by chance. You received in the mission there in Kalimantan, and you participated also in some celebration. So we are going to have a short video of these celebrations you were part of there.
Prima persona l'impegno delle sorelle della carità e hai vissuto con loro anche le celebrazioni, no? Quindi prima di farti la prossima domanda volevo vedere anche far mostrare un altro breve filmato di queste celebrazioni.
We said that we are in Kalimantan with the Sisters of Charity and Shanantid, and one of the mission of the Sisters of Charity of Shanantid, what touched you most about this mission, and
Allora, abbiamo detto che siamo
what words you heard in this journey, which you keep in your heart. The meeting with the mission of the Sisters of Charity in Kalimantan was beautiful, wonderful, because I was there with my troop, and every time each journey touches us a lot, but this was special because this journey we made in July. We are making two different works. One is the film you mentioned, Garden of South Tropical Forest, Amazonia, Congo, and which we have presented also the United Nations meeting, and the film was approved by the dirigents also, and to see the sisters who live in the front line. It's not just to say, let us save the forest and the ecology, but they were born in Kalimantan, and they were mothers, sisters, and daughters of the forest of Borneo. They live Laudato Si and a relationship with nature in a unique way. The word which I would use is exactly uh, we are all connected because to live with the sisters of charity within the forest made me understand even more the importance of interconnection. What happens there, what happens in each centimeter of forest um, influence also our life. And the work of the Sisters of Charity there, now we are coming to a jubilee. It's a presence which you know, which has lasted for long years, and we are going to make a documentary, probably in the beginning of next year, to tell exactly the presence is being connected with nature and with each living being and each human being. And in a specific way, I could listen to the testimony of many women to whom I have asked how your life has changed after the coming of the Sisters of Charity among you, and all of them from the first to the last said, even the one who gave me this crown I'm wearing, we could study. The coming of the sisters meant for us, girls, children, girls, baby girls, that we were able to study, and this opened our horizons. The word you use of interconnection reminds us of the Synod of Amazon, which also now we are within this part of Synod,
La parola che hai usato, no? Dell'interconnessione,
and to work, we are walking together. So if we want to go to a specific couple of words, women and synod,
all'interno di questo cammino sinodale,
I don't know if we could, if you could hear it.
il fatto del camminare insieme.
So I
Se
say,
guardiamo più nello specifico, appunto,
for this word you have just used, which is interconnection,
quello che non so se si è sentito o
which reminds us to the Synod of Amazon,
ripeto da capo.
where there was the refrain also, which said everybody united. Now we are living also another synod, which reminds us of interconnection, the fact that we should walk together, and that everything regards everybody. If we want to choose the words women and education,
Ci richiama proprio questo,
also looking at those places,
insieme, no? Che tutto riguarda tutti.
looking also at what the sisters do there,
Donne ed educazione. Ecco, per
the fact that they could study there,
anche meravigliosi, no?
what do the women there for promotion? In comparison to other areas, I found in Borneo a good level of parity between men and women, also in the villages. The role of women when they get the microphone, and not just to Sister Siwi who can give a big speech and keep people listening to her, but also to lay women. They can speak. And in the film we made in Congo with women from the Pygmalian country people, every time a woman started talking, there is a man who speaks louder than her, repeating her words in a louder voice. While in Borneo we found a very better harmony. And also about dialogue among religions, there is really a work which is done there. We can say that Borneo is a world of Dayak, and it is in all place where people work about many questions. Is also thanks to the Sisters of Charity, to education, which is not just teaching literacy or teaching a job or teaching an economical autonomy, which is the first way, but it is also to take a stand about the environment. It is incredible how the sisters buy pieces of land to avoid that they can be cut down, that the forest may be cut down, and to make it available to the women who go to cut to get caoutchouc or and to do those small work which are so useful for the women to um, earn their life. So it is also an education about environment, but not just that. And here I would use the other word, which is enculturation, because to see how the sisters of charity who are Dayak also, they breathe it in, and they got the best of the Christian history without uprooting it, but rooting it down in the history of the people and for the people, and this also could be shown and made known. I hope that the short documentary we're going to make will be able to pass on this work of the Sisters of Charity, which I have seen with my own eyes as so precious that it has been made known, which has to be made known together with the joy, and which I would like to see the Sister corner of the scene, which is taking place because it is that joy, which is the evangelical joy, which is part of education of the journey, and also we need to educate to smiling, and perhaps you have the Sisters of Charity can really teach this. You have so much to give that we need to work on this to show it and to communicate it to others. I would like to show some pictures you sent us, and which show us also the mission of the Sisters of Charity in Kalimantan. The big work that the sisters do together with young people, starting from the smaller children, younger children, from all point of view, is formation as education, but also human formation and formation to use to develop the arts. So it's information at all levels. The pictures show a reality. This is the first house opened by the sisters, and this community, all this community says we are what we are. It's a community with its own problems, but ready and open to the future, and it's ready to face the challenges of our days and of the future. And this is thanks to the sister because since they came, they work on formation and on education of women at all levels. Going back, then perhaps you, how did you think that cinema and photography can be an instrument to educate our society, like how and what can we invest for the future. Nowadays, society is a society of images, so photography or filming is the first language, so we need to begin to communicate and to educate with this language, which can be used in a negative way, but also can give a lot. As we look at photography also, not just as displays and contests, but also on socials, the pictures of everyday pictures that teach we can teach our members of our community to use well the pictures, and we can teach them about the dangers, but also teach them what pictures made in a certain way can teach and can pass on. A small activity to New York, we brought the display We Cry to the inauguration of the new Performing Arts Center in Ground Zero. So we have the faces of women taken in the missions we have visited all over the world, and they were there on the terrace in this center, which has become, which has gone from being a place of death to a place of life. And this is how photographies, pictures touch the heart of everybody, and the same can be done through films. The documentaries can be used, and we need to educate people to watch in a critical way to know the origins, to discuss them. There is the old experience of cineforum, and we can insert in any part of education the use of videos and cinemas, because this is the language of today. We have still a few minutes if you have some questions. So please, while the sisters ask to use questions asked, I would like to ask if you have something to tell us about this documentary, which will be issued in January. We are working on it. We have a lot of material, and we still have to reflect about what we want to bring as a message, as a final message, because documentary is always a work of group, it's always a journey, and certainly the journey together, the image of when we reached the village with Sister Sylvia and the other sisters, and we were welcomed by the community. I would say that it was more than a red carpet in the festival of Cannes Festival, and they were able to welcome us with these rituals and this incredible celebration. We should say it in the documentary, because this is due to years and years of work, of struggle, of efforts of the sisters, also disappointments of the sisters who always struggled for this and did all that they could to bring this image, and we would like to bring this image to the whole world to show the journey of formation and education which is behind the image and this celebration. Thank you. So I don't know if you have any question to ask. Also, Sister Maria Luisa, Sister Teresa, Sister Isabella may ask some questions if you have any curiosity.
Allora, non so se nel frattempo avete pensato a qualche domanda. Magari anche Sor Maria Luisa, Sor Teresa, Sor Isabella.
While I was thinking of a question, I would like to add something. Making a documentary, there is a work made by the people working behind the cameras. What should I say? What should I do for this? The Sisters of Charity, like all the sisters all over the world for their formation, they do not like to be in front of the camera. So certainly, I do not have to. Many years ago, I was filming a very holy friar from the Capuchins, and with the microphone, he kept saying, "My good have mercy on me, pardon me, forgive me, and to be before the camera, in front of the camera is a service. So another formation, education we should give is to be at the service. So to do so with serenity, without being concerned, worried. It's not to want to show off or to show oneself. We need the sisters able to tell something. They do not want to tell themselves be to get attention, but I think that if Jesus today would come and say, "Here I am," the gospel would be communicated through videos and images. The good news has to be told also through this. So in your journeys of formation, you should also teach how to speak in front of the camera, how not to be afraid, how to talk in front of it. I have made a meeting with sisters in Africa where we had problems of that if only the sister tries to speak, there is someone else saying, no, no, not women, that women should not talk. So it is a journey to be done with the whole church, but I believe that sisters on screen can give a lot, and we need to fill with these contents also the darker corners, which with your good testimony can be given. In this, I think that it is important to discern, because while there are good journalists and directors, there are many others who take advantage from ingenuity, and they make just gossip. So there is also to be attentive, be attentive to what to say, what not to say. It is important that we value also the social media, because if we want to reach out people and the young public, as we are doing now, that we are in streaming on Facebook, and perhaps even though there are no questions, we might have young people who want to go to Kalimantan, to Indonesia. I'd like to say two things. First of all, thank you, Lia, because every time we see your docu-films, we feel that we are in this world, and we are going through something else. So your docu-film also help us to go through an experience of life, and this makes me think of the message of the Pope of 2021, in which he said about communication that life becomes a history. And your documentaries made the life of the Sister of Charity in Indonesia become history, because it will be seen from another point of view, with other eyes than ours. We may say one situation, but a director of film see in a different way and shows it in a different way, and gives us also a greater openness. And thank you also to Alessandra, because all this research you have made with the statistics and data about the situation of women in Asia, in the Philippines, in Jordan, and in other countries, also Thailand, Laos, where we work. What for you as a young woman, besides the fact that you are a journalist, being a believer and a young woman, what and besides the statistics, what touches you as a European woman? Perhaps you have you face different problems, because also here there are plenty of situations of discriminations for women. So, but it is also another point. What touches you? I'm curious about this.
E anche qua in Italia ci sono tante situazioni di discriminazione rispetto alle donne, no?
Thank you for the question.
Un altro punto anche, che
Perhaps not in these same terms.
questo livello?
Before starting this webinar, I was thinking of some countries where I have been,
Per la
and
certainly
certainly
allora magari non in questi termini,
in Europe
ovviamente,
women have problems.
il nostro webinar
Also, though simpler one, I have not had them because I live in a
allora beh,
good place, but
in Italia, ma qua nel resto
also some other young girls
problemi
were asked if do you want to have children in a
esattamente perché lavoro
interview for jobs, for a job. This is also a way of discriminating, and it makes us very close to what happens in Asia. So although there is a law which forbids this kind of questions, but this happens anyway. And before starting this interview, I thought of my trips abroad. I felt very privileged to be able to visit some countries like Iraq last year, and talking to other people
di collegarmi
who of my same age, who cannot come to Europe because they are not able to get the visas. But as a woman, as a journalist who has interest in marginalized areas, sometimes the journey is difficult because my male colleagues have easier access to some stories, to some regions, while for a woman it's more difficult. For a woman cannot travel alone as a woman. We do it, but there are more risks. And this is a thing I think often, and it is unfair, but it cannot be changed, and it is a thing for which we need time.
di un uomo.
And going out of the journalistic world, I am lucky because I know many stories, and I feel a great closeness to Asia when we
Invece
speak of
dal mondo del
Asian societies,
sono fortunata
about different range of ages. I think of Afghanistan or Myanmar,
quando
because I think that people of my own age in those countries have lived for decades democracy, and then they found themselves under a dictatorship. Both Myanmar and Afghanistan in 2021 have been involved in a situation of civil conflict, and in Afghanistan we know how women are living there. It has been a sudden change after decades of an open situation where children and girls could go to school. And in Myanmar, many people of my age joined the resistance, the armed resistance. And in Thailand also, when there were people who were protesting, there was a movement which involved many different countries, and young people were in the front line. When I think of the people of my age and I listen to them telling me these stories, I feel that I am lucky to be born in Europe, but I feel very close to them because I think that many of their fights regard also young men and women of Europe, because discriminations are everywhere, and each one can fight them in her or his own way. So that's it. Thank you.
e riguardano anche
Thank you, Alessandra.
le giovani donne che appunto abbiamo detto le discriminazioni ci sono dappertutto e ognuno poi le combatte, diciamo, a modo suo. Quindi sì, ecco, insomma.
The Sisters of Charity do not have, they don't like to make questions. Perhaps Sister Maria Luisa want to say also thank you to both of you, to Lia and Alessandra, for all the work you have done and for the image you have given us about the situation from a professional point of view. And also we want to thank Lia for what you have communicated to us, because what you will do through your film will help us also to get a different point of view on what you will live, because not only it's difficult to be in front of the camera, sometimes it's also difficult to understand our own work. We live it, but we should stop and to look at it, but also to understand the, the look of those who see it just for a few days. It seems that there was a long time for you there, but in reality, you remained there just a few days. And I just want to say, because you said the look of those who watch it, the faces I have seen among those who direct the United Nations and the representative of different religions. In the beginning, they had some prejudices about the Catholic Church, but when they heard the story of one of your sisters, Zayaka, who speaks about her own father as a traditional leader of the traditional religion, and they had their eyes wide opened, and never we heard of a sister who speaks of the traditional religion with such respect, and she doesn't speak about her own religion. So that's what I say. Let's see how also others look at your work. And they were quite surprised. We were also surprised to hear you saying this, and we will see with joy what she has said. And I also have a question from Alessandra, because listening to you and to Lia, we heard two very respectful ways of telling us a very painful situation. How do you combine your work in Asia and the look of Lia only on Asia, with a completely different energy and which goes into detail? Yours was an open view all over the Asian world, to all over the continent, while Lia went to a detail how you felt in seeing this contrast, if you want. I felt passionate about Asia recently, because I think that often, also because in the majority of the countries, the Christians are a minority about which nobody speaks, but which but having a Christian look at this reality help us to enlarge our vision to the whole country, and I feel that this is very precious. And also another thing I think of is that often being part of the Western world, we feel we look at our future thinking of what happens in the United States, and what is happening in the United States is what will happen to us in a few years. But I think that in the last years, I think it's more useful to look at the eastern side of the world, because the eastern society are very lively and offer us plenty of inputs about living among different ethnic groups and religions, and we are also I'm also finding this very passionating, And a difficult I meet,
per il ruolo
perhaps also Lia has it, is to separate my professional look from the personal look, because to do our job we need a certain sensitivity, and we need also to look at this painful situation, to keep a bit of distance from the suffering and not to get too much involved, because in telling the history of the suffering has to be made in a professional way, in an attentive way, and therefore it is a challenge, but it is a beautiful challenge because it makes us grow as a person and also in the relationships with other people, and I hope also from a professional point of view. Yes, Alessandra, you touched an important point, which is what work we have to do on ourselves, facing all the time stories of very painful situation. Interviewing a girl, 7-year-old girl who has been sold, who says, I want to become a soldier and able to arrest my mothers and my brothers. It requires from us a very hard work. I feel that I can do this only through prayer, and also when I go to film, in the evening I take my own time in a separate place to put everything before the altar and clean up my mind and my feelings, bring everything to zero and go on with the work without being influenced by the pain. I have a testimony as a woman, as a mother, but also as a human being before the suffering of the world, and to feel also the responsibility before a woman in Iraq during the escape from Mosul. We were 12 kilometers from the front of ISIS. A woman who had just lost her husband told me, put me in your luggage, take me away with you. I felt very much embarrassed because I had my camera, and she said, thank you, because you tell the world our history, otherwise there wouldn't be any meaning in our life. I agree. I just want to add a very short thing. I have had the same experience in Jordan in this summer. I was with Caritas, listening to the histories of some migrants, young and less young, and refugees, especially from Syria and Iraq and Sudan. And I was very much emotional, moved, and I felt very privileged. But at the same time, I felt strongly my helplessness, because I could not do anything to change the situation. But at the same time, it was wonderful to see how grateful they were to be able to tell their stories, and it is important to keep doing it. And also your experience as a journalist, Lia has to go to some places to film. To be a journalist, you can do also from home. But as Pope Francis said in the World Day for Communication, it is important to go physically to tell the stories. Otherwise, they wouldn't have the same thickness. And also the stories and the situation change you. And even I went to Brazil in summer, and I was telling also before going there, but after being there, it has changed. For we have, it is a privilege, but it is this is the way that journalism has to take. So other questions? There are no other questions, so we can we can come to the conclusion of this webinar. We thank you all for being with us, and all the participants, especially the speakers, Lia Beltrami and Alessandra de Poli, who have shown us this picture of Asia in a wonderful way, and we thank the Thouret Foundation, and we give you thanks, and we give you appointment for the month of December to another continent, and to have another surprise. And thank you for being there, and see you next time. Bye bye.